Congressman Jordan, Congressman Johnson, great to be with you here on CBN News. Both of you, you've been here for several days. You've been on the Temple Mount. You've been in Hebron. Yeah. You just met with the Prime Minister. Tell us about your reaction for your trip here in Israel.
It's been wonderful. Combination of meeting with government officials, meeting with Israeli citizens who are out there farming, making wine, doing all kinds of. We were at an industrial park, and then of course seeing some of the most sacred sites, part of the path of the patriarchs, the pilgrim's path. We saw that today. That was special. First time we'd been there. And then, of course, we were on the Temple Mount as well. So just an amazing week.
Yeah, Congressman Johnson?
We just had a delightful time. It was an educational experience. And, of course, the timing is not lost on us. This is a hugely consequential time, really, for both of our countries. An election year, one here just in a couple of weeks and in several months for us. And we feel sort of the weight of history as we're here, that the way things are developing here in Israel, the extraordinary economic growth and the way the economy is booming and the way things are going is very exciting for us. And of course the new deal of the century, as it's being called, the plan of the century, has been very well received by the Israeli people and everywhere we went. And we went to all points of the country over the last several days. Just really strong support for the U.S. and our relationship, and of course President Trump and his administration. A deep appreciation of the people here, I think, for what he's been able to accomplish and what he and Prime Minister Netanyahu have accomplished together.
Yeah. So based on your experiences here, what kind of thoughts, ideas, proposal, maybe resolutions in Congress you'll be taking back to Washington?
You know, the BDS movement is something that we've been railing against for a long time, and I thought it was a very eye-opening experience for us to go and visit these communities where Palestinian and Arab Muslim people are working hand in hand with Jewish Israeli people, and there's this great symbiotic relationship there, and the factories that we toured, and the industrial areas, the farming communities, where these two people groups are working very well together. In fact, they celebrate weddings and funerals together. And you don't hear about that. You don't see that because there are these kind of leftist movements that are trying to, I think, force this narrative that somehow, you know, the Palestinian people are oppressed or what have you. And it's just simply not true. And so we wish everyone could come and see this for themselves, because it would resolve a lot of what, I don't know, I'll quote the president, fake news is out there about this situation.
Is that some of what you'll be taking back to, Congressman Jordan?
We're going to tell the president, and he already knows this, just how much the people of Israel appreciate President Trump. You know, out of the Iran deal, embassy in Jerusalem, the recognition of the Golan Heights, and now the new plan, which would allow what the world calls settlement areas to be a part of the state of Israel. This president is the best friend the state of Israel's ever had. And the people of this great country understand it. And the bond between Americans and the Jewish people of Israel is just a special, special bond built on that Judeo-Christian heritage. You know, is the sort of the fundamentals of our country, both countries.
You're both professing Christians. How important? Many people say it's important for America to stand with Israel, but how important is it for the United States to be, you know, such a backer of Israel?
Well, yeah, you can look at it from a geopolitical standpoint, which we do. It's hugely important for these nations, for the U.S. to have an ally here in the Middle East. It's so critical for the security and stability of the whole region, and really, for that matter, the world. And so it's such a great partner that we have. But from a spiritual perspective, obviously, I mean, we're raised, you know, with the scripture that the admonishment that God will bless the people that bless Israel. And so that is fundamental to our belief and who we are as people before we become elected officials. We spent an afternoon in the hills of Judea. And I've been a Sunday school teacher in the Southern Baptist Church my whole life, and have taught the stories of David wandering those hills and writing the Psalms and fleeing from Saul and all that. And to be there and to see it and experience it for yourself is just it takes it to a whole new level. It just reinforces, I think, the resolve that we've always had to support Israel, the natural inclination that we have as Christians, as believers, to do that. But to understand just how critical it is for the future of both of our countries, I believe. I think Israel is our most important ally.
I remember, I think it was our first trip here, and I don't know, someone in the private sector or someone in the government, I can't remember, but they said the best way you can help us, the best way the United States of America can help Israel is for America to stay strong. When you're stronger, we're better. When you're stronger, we're safer. That's true. There's this specialness between that bond. And if you step back and think of it in a bigger sense, I think the world's safer and better when America leads. As the largest economy, as the superpower in the world, it is better when we lead. And you can't lead militarily and diplomatically if you don't lead economically. They're all linked. And I think it's tough to lead economically if you're not embracing the right values and the right fundamentals, the right perspective from the start. So that's how it's all connected. And this country is just amazing in what they're doing economically, which is helping them in so many ways as well. So it's funny how we're just so connected as two people with this common kind of base and faith-based starting point.
You're overseas now, and I don't know if you can get into domestic politics or not, but impeachment's over, and you've brought up many injustices that have been brought to light. How would you say what's going forward, and are Americans who are concerned about these injustices, are they going to see any results?
We hope so. I've been very impressed with the Attorney General and his willingness to make a commitment and put someone in charge of getting to the bottom of what actually happened when the whole Trump-Russia investigation started, and that is U.S. Attorney Durham, who U.S. Attorney from Connecticut, who's in charge of that investigation. We think it'll be late spring, early summer. The next sort of big hearing will most likely be when the Attorney General testifies. In late March, he is scheduled to testify in front of the House Judiciary Committee, so we'll be gearing up and getting ready for that.
I'm very optimistic about the future. I think this calendar year will be a challenging one because the political division is so great that we've talked about. I believe that the President Trump will be reelected pretty handily, and I'm increasingly optimistic that we can retake the majority for the Republicans in the House. I think we'll retain the majority in the Senate, and if we can have all those three things align again, it'll be a great thing for the country. I currently chair the Republican Study Committee, which is the largest caucus of conservatives in Congress. Jim was a former chairman, and our members right now are working really hard developing what I call the playbook of Republican conservative, kind of orthodox conservative legislation that will run to continue this great run in the second administration, second term of Donald Trump. That'll be a great thing for the country. We're increasingly optimistic that'll happen, and so we're sort of excited about that, and that's what's keeping us going and enthused during these sometimes rocky political times.
How about the deal of the century? You've talked about that. How important do you think it is, and how was it received here?
I think it's very important, and just a further example of the commitment that the President has to this country and that bond that we've talked about so much between the United States and the State of Israel. So I think it's tremendously important.
The summary of our week here and our conversation today is that just the remembering how hugely consequential and historic these times are that we're living in. These are uncharted waters in many ways for both of our nations, both the United States and Israel. Some of the old norms are changing, and what we always reflect on and try to hold fast to is the unchanging foundations of both countries, that all of this is built upon these core principles, core ideals that find their root in our Judeo-Christian heritage. And that's what we're fighting to preserve. That's what's going to continue to make America great and keep America great. The President is defending those same ideals and principles, and I think Prime Minister Netanyahu, for his part, does as well. We think that's what's going to make both nations successful, and as Jim said, a strong America and a strong Israel is good for the whole world.
Congressman Johnson, Congressman Jordan, great to be with you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thanks.